It's really nice to meet you, and thank you so much
Well,
for being a part of this conversation. We at Vega Schools and at the Global Schools Alliance, we try to reach out to interesting people to get their view, um, discerning and interesting people to get their view to share it within our ecosystem and beyond. Um, and the context really is that ultimately it's the market, it's the employer, it's the real world that should drive what educational institutions do, largely at least. um, so that's the context, that's the reason we do this. We felt that over several centuries and decades, um, a little chasm was starting to develop between the real world and educational institutions, especially schools, because there is the university in between, and sometimes the interconnectedness sort of gets a little bit of a gap and distance. So that's the context in which we decided to do this. But I wanted to sort of also, sorry,
no,
yes.
no, thank you very much for engaging with me. I truly appreciate it. Happy to share my perspectives for whatever it's worth. And I'm definitely passionate about children. I do spend some time once in a year at least helping youngsters, mostly in my native towns, helping them about how they can grow in life. So I'm very happy to share broader perspectives with you all as a leading school in the country. Really impressed to read about how you've evolved as an institution. So congratulations there as well. It's great.
Thank you very much, Thiru. Uh, so as an HR executive with over 23 years of experience in human resources, client services, and hospitality, and today you inspire thousands of practitioners, as you rightly noted, and leaders in the global business services. Um, I wanted to talk to you about a few things that we feel um, a lot of people can benefit hearing from. Um, and of course, you yourself have made career shifts in your life, so so you see the value perhaps in the fact that different industries and different businesses require unique skills, and emerging businesses perhaps require different set of skills. So I wanted to ask you and talk to you specifically about you know as an HR leader in the IT industry, especially now with the pandemic having hit us, and of course massive changes in technology. What do you see as the greatest challenges and opportunities?
It's the great question, right? Now, our industry, as you said, was information and technology. So we're really in the knowledge business. And our clients, Sandy, pay us for ideas and the skills of the workforce that we actually have in our organizations, and then our services that come with it. Because, when I sort of answer related to the IT industry in the company that I work in, we don't necessarily sell products. It's all ideas, information, and the knowledge that supports our clients with some kind of a value. So the greatest challenge for us is skills and knowledge. And how can we keep every individual up to date year on year as they grow in their career? So the hunger for continuous learning, be it either you upskill yourself from the technology or the domain that you already hold, or you completely reskill yourself into something else that you don't necessarily have learned in the past, is a huge challenge for us. It could be an industry expertise or a functional or a domain expertise in technology or in technology. So the ability to always stay ahead and be essential for the clients that you support, and that could be across any industry, to me is a huge challenge for us, for all organizations in this industry.
Yes.
I'm also going to say the ability to solve complex problems of today and for the future, using all the technologies that come in terms of AI and machine learning, and a lot of it is on the hybrid multi-cloud, which we're seeing a huge trend in a very safe and secure environment, so that everyone's respectful of privacy laws and cybersecurity and data. So that's really a huge challenge. We also see, Sandy, is that the shelf life of skills is about 2 years today. So the speed at which things are moving, the hard reality is you are as good as you were yesterday. So in that context, you have to constantly drive to keep oneself version 2021 and 2025 and 2030 and beyond. And that's what helps you succeed in your career marathon, because you could grow horizontally and vertically through experiences. And that's how, I'm going to say it's a huge challenge, because that requires a different mindset. Yeah.
That's very interesting. It's the first time I've actually heard this line, and I'll remember that. And I might paraphrase and quote it, that it's the shelf life of skills today is 2 years. That's really dramatic. That's far more dramatic than a lot of discourse out there.
Right. Yeah. I have to also add the second part of the question, which you alluded to, is how has the pandemic changed it, right? And that's the other opportunity. Now, this challenge has even more amplified post-pandemic in terms of our teams and practitioners who don't see each other, literally. Whereas we would have IT parks filled with thousands of people coming in, meeting, speaking. That's not happening. And everyone's gone back to their small towns in Ranchi, Tiruchi, and every part of the country. How do you bring people together? So the ability to thrive in a virtual digital environment is a very different play. And that requires different skills. You could be Roger Federer or Serena Williams in your technology, but if you don't have in my view, the skills of extreme collaboration, and I'm going to use that word, ability to team not just locally, but globally, because we serve international clients in this industry, to have this cultural intelligence, in my view, the ability to communicate with impact, caring for each other, wellness-wise, both physically and mentally, because you got to work together. All that is important for corporations, so that there is always that sense of pride and belongingness in a culture where you never step into an office. Now that requires a different kind of skills in addition to the technological skills today. So those are hard challenges that we are facing in the industry today, and the opportunity for us as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's very interesting that, you've kind of taken what is a discourse that we come across to its extreme. So essentially what you're saying is that shelf life of skills is 2 years, and not only do we need technical skills, which also are evolving very quickly and changing very quickly, we need collaboration, but we don't need collaboration, we need extreme collaboration, especially since now we are not really working in physical groups, we are working scattered across geographic spaces. So we need the next level of collaboration. And again, you're not talking about just communicating effectively, you're talking about communicating with impact, which is also taking communication to the next level. And of course, empathy and caring for each other, which is the all important timeless skill. And thank you for noting that and underscoring that. So that's really essentially what you're saying is that we have to now go to the next level of creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, empathy, and all those things.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I also wanted to sort of ask you, one of my favorite questions, and that is that how easy is it or difficult is it to find talent in today's world?
So, I'll answer it in two parts. there is an amazing amount of talent in India. There is no dearth of intelligent people, at least in this country. But it's extremely difficult because everyone's vying for the same talent. And, there are people who, I'm going to say we hire for talent and not necessarily for skill. So it's a very different concept because, at the end of the day, you may be highly skilled in something. And as we discussed, that skill will expire. But the ability to hire for talent who can continuously evolve and build skills along the way, now that's the difficult part, right? So while there is we've had ballet dancers, we've had gymnasts, we've had, retired military professionals, and we've hired very, very different, diverse people into an IT role, right? Now, one might think, how would these people fit into your organization? But they are highly talented and they have a certain drive. You can teach them anything and they'll absolutely flourish. So in my view, the ability to teach people how to hire itself is a big challenge. So now you have technology that supports it. You have a lot of assessments, behavioral assessments, coding assessments that will test foundationally your ability to take risk, the ability to, basic cognitive ability. So, it depends on the industry that you're in and what you're looking for. Volume is available, but at the end of the day, you'll have to be able to pick the most relevant ones that have the attitude in the long run to succeed. Yeah. So that's my view on hiring and talent. Yeah.
That's also a very interesting and a slightly perhaps divergent view, again, compared to commonplace discourse. So essentially what you're saying is that go beyond skills. So a lot of talk, there's a lot of talk and perhaps for good reason about going beyond knowledge and content and transcending knowledge and content and going to skills. Now you're saying that knowledge, content, and skills aren't good enough either. We need to actually go way beyond that and tap into a person's ability to learn. So it's interesting that you shared this, Thiru, because in the last 10 years, there's been an enormous amount of research on metacognition in the education world. And metacognition really being defined as the ability to learn, to know how to learn. And a lot of things that we do at Vega Schools with PBL are actually based on the outcomes of the metacognitive research. So it's very interesting that you share this, that the ability to learn, knowing how to learn, and adapting to new environments through that ability is something that you really value. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even we believe, right? And one of the things about the future of what kind of jobs will exist in the future, right? And if you look at it in the next 5-10 years or so, I believe, this whole cognitive computing that we see today will redefine the experiences that we have in our everyday life exponentially, right? And computing today has the power to see images, to recognize, it can read and learn, speak multiple languages. It can understand natural language. It can even appreciate emotions and then eventually make recommendations and even advise personally. So when you look at how this whole technology is evolving, a lot of the jobs that we see today that are repetitive, that are standard in nature will be replaced by, I'm going to say, artificial intelligence. And even now, when you call a bank, the IVRs and the chatbots have evolved quite significantly from what it used to be a decade ago. And most, I'm going to say, BPO kind of work, call centers, processing work will be done through, cognitive artificial intelligence, digital workers per se, and humans will move to a higher value jobs, at least from our industry. Yeah. And we see a lot of that in business intelligence, cloud technologies taking shape, in the space that we work in. So science, technology, engineering, and math becomes foundational to have a career in this side of the world. Yeah, I'm an example of someone that came in from the outside, but I'm not a technologist. I handle people. I mean, I've been dealing with people all my life, but in my view, for us to keep churning out talent that we've seen in India that can succeed in the world stage, it's because of our focus on science, technology, engineering, math in India. Yeah, we have a lot of inventors coming equal in the global stage from this country, and I believe it will continue to do so. So there will be two kinds of jobs: the one where you can work from anywhere and work from home. As I say, I'm going to say work from anywhere, and then the other kind of job where you'll have to be at the place of work because you need tools, you need to do research, and you need to touch somebody. So at the end of the day, there'll be those kind of jobs, which is an advantage as well as a disadvantage in my view. The ability to work remotely is not always an advantage.
Yes. No, I hear you absolutely. And as we talk, of course, millions and millions of students, learners across India and the world are also similarly scattered and learning from home, and it's not that easy. Having said that, it's also giving an opportunity to for at least some of them, or hopefully many of them, to build resilience, to build these skills of working from anywhere, to have maybe a slightly stronger relationship and a more comfortable relationship with technology and things like that. So everything has the other side. You've really created a lot of dissonance in my mind by accelerating some of the assumptions. I thought the time for extreme collaboration will come, and I thought that the time for communicating with impact online is also going to come soon, because that's the situation we are in. But I didn't realize that these are actually high priority skills for you today, not 1 year or 2 years or 3 years from today. So I was curious, what do you think, if you were to read the tea leaves going forward, what do you think will be at premium in 8, 10, 12 years from today? And why I ask this question, Thiru, is because that's when a lot of parents who are admitting children in school, or whose children are in school, will be going into the real world. So what are the top 2-3 things that they should look at, other than, of course, what you already shared, which is learning to learn, metacognition, the ability to learn?
Sure. So in my view, see, there are different fields that one will take in the nature of work. That's fundamental. However, I think there are certain values that one will have to pick up in the early stages of their education, more around behavioral sciences, in my view. Firstly, I'm going to say the ability to understand failure. It's okay to fail fast, fail early, but always look up at the stars. Very few people actually understand that, and they learn it the hard way. But if they learn it early, the better it is. The ability to understand hardship, because in today's world, a lot of things come too easy. People take it for granted. So it's better to go through the grind early in life than later in life. So I'm going to say this whole ability to thrive in an uncomfortable environment is one thing that I think early, take all the knocks early, because growth and comfort do not coexist. So it's not taught anywhere. I feel that's a huge priority in the way I think upbringing and schools can help in. Then we also talked about a little bit about co-creating and collaborating. Now, you always don't learn in a textbook in today's world. You learn from the people that you interact with locally, in the society that you live in the broader communities, as well as globally. So education cannot be, in my view, limited to just the standard curriculum, which of course it's core, but the development of the individual has to be, of course, the curriculum, but the real world education, the ability to survive in the real world. Now, I don't have the answers to it, but how can people solve problems, learn by doing and experiencing the real world, which will stick, for the rest of their lives? The ability, how can they gain the muscle to take risk, to step outside of the small circle of local life, is another trait. I'm going to say the experience of doing, which sticks. Because in online education, I have two boys, I have twins actually. They just turned teenagers, they're 8 years old, they're in grade 8. I have to admit, thank you. I have to admit that, as much as they undergo, online education, in my view, 33% stick, nothing more. So they just forget, and I don't blame them for it. So the ability to keep them engaged with real world stuff is something of a huge priority, I believe. And what I think, which doesn't get taught today, which will become very important in the world, is also sustainability. We don't teach it in schools, nor in the universities. It's very few people who take an interest in it, that research it, study it, but that will become a huge priority in the world. It's often misunderstood, and there are very few people who've actually taken the early stages of building a learning curriculum. I have a classmate of mine who's UK based. You could actually connect with him. He's got some great ideas. He started a company called earth51.org. Earth51. He's introduced sustainability for dummies, 101, so people can appreciate what it is truly, because it's often misunderstood. So
I'd love to connect with them. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So to me, empathy, kindness, respect for each other, all are becoming very, very, I'm going to say, shallow in today's world, because everyone's busy doing their own thing. So fundamentals which are not taught necessarily in schools, if you can build in exercises where people can appreciate the beauty of one another, I think those will differentiate one from the other. Yeah, everything else can be taught.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing this, Thiru. This is very, very powerful. And I mean, as I guess we go back to the Eastern philosophies, the ancient Greek philosophers, the Vedic philosophy, Islamic philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, there is a great emphasis on improving one's relationship with, with change, and in the concept of impermanence. In fact, everything changes, and I guess we are confronting that today with the pandemic, where it's now pushing us to dramatically improve our relationship with change, and now with, of course, global warming coming in the future, the big point that you made about sustainability also holds true, because I saw this very interesting cartoon in The Economist, where there are two boxers. Earth is one boxer, and the COVID pandemic is a second boxer, and they're dealing a lot of blows, exchanging blows. And then there's another boxer standing who's a giant, and his name is global warming. So Earth hasn't even fought him yet. So you're absolutely right about the fact that we really need to bring a lot of philosophy back into our lives, into the education systems, through the ancient philosophical systems. And really, these are timeless skills. So it doesn't matter what was said many thousand years ago; it still holds as true today. So we in fact, the co-founder of Vega, Dr. Stephen Edwards, talks about this concept of comfort zone, growth zone, and panic zone. That through our PBL system, we need to make sure that our children are not in the circle of comfort zone, and of course, they are not pushed beyond a point that they go into the realm of panic zone.
Right.
Something that a lot of people are in today because of the pandemic. For example, the idea is to keep the learners in the growth zone, and the way to do that is to constantly push through projects, through real world projects, through solving real world problems, to keep them as much in the realm of the growth zone. And we also have an interesting program called Shram that we started, which really was empathy in action, because we can talk about empathy or kindness as a concept. Traditionally, of course, we learned a bit of that in our moral science classes, but we really learned them from our parents, from our uncles and aunts and grandparents, and friends who had the right values. But we try to emphasize on empathy and kindness in action through the Sham program, and we actually dovetail that with the curriculum and the projects themselves. So when the children are doing projects, doing real world projects, solving real world problems, it ideally should involve a local village or local community, a place where we can make impact to those who need it more than us. So thank you for sharing this very important piece, and I'm going to go back and share it with our learning leaders and our leadership team, because it also kind of validates some of the things that they've worked very hard at.
Sure. No, appreciate it. I was reminded of Bruce Lee in terms of one of the things that you talked about, one skill for the future. It's a 30-second clipping. You'll find it on the internet. He says, you have to be like water. You pour water in a cup, it becomes the cup. You pour water in a teapot, it becomes a teapot. You freeze water, it becomes ice hard, powerful. So he says, you be like water, become mold yourself into the environment, because that's how you survive and adapt to the realities and draw your strength. So, that's what we expect our people as well, because you just can't control, you have to adapt.
Yeah, no, that's very well put. And Bruce Lee is a very interesting character. In fact, he wrote. I'm going to look this. I'm going to go look for this clip. It's certainly worth sharing with my team. He also wrote a letter when he was struggling, and he wrote a letter to I believe it was to his father, or I don't remember who he wrote the letter to, but he wrote a very interesting letter where he outlined what he would be in 10 years. And that's the time he was struggling. So he actually was able to outline in his letter that he would go to the United States, he would build a world-class Kung Fu institution, he would become a really famous person, and all those things. I was just reflecting on what you shared about resilience. And I think somewhere probably linked very closely with resilience is self-confidence and self-belief. And what really emerged in this letter was the incredible sense of self-belief and self-confidence he had.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the other piece that, that's a very important intangible to hopefully find ways to teach to the next generation.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to thank you so much for your time and for your insights. And I strongly believe that these insights will be extremely valuable for our parent community as they bring up their children for the world of the future, children of the new world, for the children themselves, children of the new world, for our learning leaders. We call our teachers learning leaders, as they craft their learning or education piece, especially for the intangibles, and for our partner schools. So I really value some of the insights that you've shared, and really deeply thank you for your time.